Political reunions. A banned Bangladeshi Islamist party poised for its strongest electoral showing. Religious tragedy. During New Year's celebrations, a large fire broke out in a historic church, leaving citizens on edge. Wallaby surprise. Rex the Wallaby on loose, who wandered around New Year's Eve before being returned back to the Peking Zoo. Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on Derana News Channel. A once banned Bangladeshi Islamist party poised for its strongest electoral showing in February's parliamentary vote is open to joining a unity government and has held talks with several parties to come to an agreement on the matter.
Opinion polls in Bangladesh suggest a strong comeback for Jamaat-e-Islami, which is expected to finish a close second to the Bangladesh Nationalist Party in the upcoming general election. The February 12 vote marks the first time in nearly 17 years that Jamaat is contesting a national election, signaling its return to mainstream politics in the predominantly Muslim nation of 175 million people. Jamaat last held power between 2001 and 2006 as a junior coalition partner with the BNP. The party leaders have indicated they are open to working with the BNP again if post-election numbers allow. While the party advocates Islamic governance under Sharia law, it has recently sought to broaden its appeal beyond its conservative support base, placing increased emphasis on governance reforms and anti-corruption efforts. Party officials say anti-corruption would be a shared priority in any potential unity government formed after the election. Under Bangladesh's political system, the Prime Minister will be selected from the party that secures the most seats in parliament following the election. Jamaat leaders say if the party emerges with the highest number of seats, a decision will then take place about the prime ministerial candidate. Analysts say the election outcome could reshape Bangladesh's political landscape as voters prepare to cast their ballots in what is expected to be a closely contested poll.
In Amsterdam, during New Year's celebrations, a large fire broke out in a historic church. Much like the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, the Dutch church had a wooden structure, making fighting the fire that much more difficult.
A blaze so great there was no saving the church tower. In the middle of the night, as Amsterdam's residents were ringing in the new year, a major fire broke out in the historic Vondelkerk church. Firefighters tried to save the over 150-year-old structure, but they could not enter. The risk that the church would collapse was too great. As they doused it with water from hoses, authorities closed down the streets around the central Amsterdam monument. And local media said that nearby homes were evacuated because of the burning debris. An alert was issued about heavy smoke, and officials declared a regional emergency.
It really is horrific. I've just been watching. It's almost violently large. The church is very close to many houses. So apart from the loss of a magnificent monument, for all people living nearby, it's really scary.
Built in 1872, the church is in the center of Amsterdam and just a short walk from the popular Van Gogh Museum. The cause of the fire is still unknown, as investigators look into whether New Year's fireworks were involved or not.
Several people have been killed and others injured when an explosion ripped through a bar in the luxury alpine ski resort town of Crans, Montana.
Swiss authorities are investigating a deadly explosion that ripped through a bar in the resort town of Crans, Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day. According to reports, around 100 people were inside the bar at the time of the blast, which occurred at approximately 1:30 a.m. local time, as revelers were celebrating the arrival of the new year. Police say several people were killed in the blast while others were injured. The exact number of the casualties has not been confirmed as of now. The area surrounding the bar has been completely sealed off, and authorities have imposed a no-fly zone over Crans, Montana as investigations continue. Officials say the cause of the explosion and resulting fire remains unclear at this stage. A receptionist center and helpline have been set up to support affected families and those seeking information.
Winter rain lashed the Gaza Strip over the weekend, flooding camps with ankle-deep puddles as Palestinians displaced by 2 years of war attempted to stay dry in tents frayed by months of use.
Unrelenting rain, flooding, mud caking makeshift tents. After 2 years of intense trauma and widespread death, more hardship could be around the corner for these Palestinians. Israel has announced that it is banning 37 aid organizations from providing humanitarian assistance in Gaza and the West Bank. Israel says these NGOs have not met their new criteria, namely of providing a list of their Palestinian employees. For them, the measures will ensure those working for the aid groups are not, in their words, hostile actors or supporters of terrorism. But following attacks in May, aid groups fear that such disclosures would make their employees targets. And many nations agree that Israel's rules are nearly impossible to meet. The UN's human rights chief called the suspensions outrageous. And on social media, the EU's humanitarian chief said the criteria are blocking life-saving aid and cannot be implemented in its current form. The tweet comes as foreign ministers from France, Canada, the UK, Switzerland, and a number of other countries condemned the rules, saying the bans would have a severe impact on access to essential services, including healthcare. Singled out by Israel and among those banned, Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, explained to France 24 that it's not just healthcare needs that will be affected.
There is almost no today public system working. So single thing is supported indeed by the international organization. This is true for the healthcare. This is true for the water. This is true for the food, because of course there is emergency food brought to give to the population every day. This is even true for the trash, because trash is also collected with support.
With little to no infrastructure left after 2 years of war, a civilian population maimed, traumatized, and displaced, the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains catastrophic.
Iranian students staged street protest in Tehran on Tuesday, a day after the capital's shopkeepers demonstrated against economic hardship and won a message of understanding from the president.
In this southern Iranian town of Fars, protesters clambered onto the gates of the local governor's offices, eventually tearing them open as anger over the cost of living crisis boils over. Elsewhere in Fars, this verified video shows security forces shooting live rounds into the crowds. Although one protester was reportedly killed, authorities have denied anyone was hurt and said that 4 people were arrested in Fars. Iran's Attorney General issued a warning against any potential violence.
Any attempt to turn economic protests into a tool for insecurity, destruction of public property, or implementation of scenarios devised abroad will be inevitably met with a legal, proportionate, and firm response.
The government's announcement of a last-minute national holiday on the 31st of December only further exacerbated unrest. The demonstrations started in the Tehran Bazaar on Sunday amid an economic crisis that has engulfed the country due to the dramatic devaluation of Iran's currency, which slid to 1.4 million rials to the US dollar on Tuesday. And in December, inflation reached 52% year on year.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Seoul and Beijing's foreign ministers discussed over the phone regarding President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China at the start of January.
South Korea and China's top diplomats held a phone call for concrete and substantive outcomes ahead of President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to Beijing. Seoul's foreign ministry says Minister Cho Hyun talked on the telephone on the last day of the year with his counterpart Wang Yi, focusing on the top-level trip from January 4th to January 7th. The two ministers reviewed the trajectory of South Korea-China relations over the past year and agreed to maintain close communication to ensure the success of the visit, which will mark the first state-level summit diplomacy of the new year for both countries. Both sides stressed the need to deliver substantive results that can be tangibly felt by the public and consolidate the momentum towards fully restoring Seoul and Beijing's strategic cooperative partnership. Cho and Wang also exchanged views on the situation on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia, agreeing to continue efforts aimed at regional stability and prosperity. This comes amid North Korea's continued missile tests. On Sunday, Pyongyang carried out a launch drill involving long-range strategic cruise missiles over the West Sea, with leader Kim Jong-un observing on site, 4 days after it tested new surface-to-air missiles. North Korea has described the launches as part of efforts to strengthen its nuclear capabilities, rejecting the idea of denuclearization. Against this backdrop, Seoul has repeatedly emphasized the importance of regional coordination, including with Beijing, while encouraging the resumption of dialogue between Pyongyang and Washington. During his 4-day stay, the South Korean leader will hold a summit with President Xi Jinping, where security matters are likely to be raised. On top of that, South Korea's decision to pursue nuclear-powered submarines may be discussed. The two leaders are further expected to address economic relations following years of market uncertainty, following Beijing's unofficial sanctions on South Korean businesses and culture, after Seoul decided to adopt a US missile defense system against North Korea's growing capabilities. Yi and Xi last met in Gyeongju in November when the Chinese leader visited South Korea to attend the APEC leaders meeting. The upcoming talks in Beijing will mark their second summit in just over 2 months.
World leaders have been exchanging New Year's greetings, including Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, with Xi using his address to express a desire to strengthen ties with Moscow, while reiterating a warning against what Beijing sees as pro-independence forces in Taiwan.
As China prepared to ring in the new year, President Xi Jinping exchanged New Year's greetings with his Russian counterpart and said he was ready to bolster bilateral ties. His comments came the same day that Beijing's military announced the end of live-fire drills around Taiwan, a show of force that prompted concern from allies in the region and the West. In his New Year's address, Xi reiterated last year's warning to what Beijing views as forces seeking Taiwan's independence.
We Chinese on both sides of the Taiwan Straits share a bond of blood and kinship. The reunification of our motherland, a trend of the times, is unstoppable.
China's Communist Party has never ruled democratically governed Taiwan, but claims it as its own territory and has not ruled out using force to bring it under Chinese control. In his New Year's address, meanwhile, Putin praised Moscow's troops.
Millions of people across Russia, I assure you, are with you on this New Year's Eve. They are thinking of you, empathizing with you, hoping for you. We are united in our sincere, selfless and devoted love for Russia. I congratulate all our soldiers and commanders on the coming new year. We believe in you and in our victory.
Russia is pressing for full control of Ukraine's eastern Donbas region as part of a deal to end the war in Ukraine, but Kyiv has warned that ceding territory will embolden Moscow. Next Tuesday, European leaders are scheduled to meet in Paris to make commitments towards protecting Ukraine after any peace agreement is brokered.
Finnish police have detained a cargo ship named the Fitberg on suspicion of sabotaging an undersea telecommunications cable linking Helsinki and the Estonian capital, with authorities saying the vessel had been traveling from Russia's port of St. Petersburg to Israel.
It was en route from the Russian port of St. Petersburg to Israel, but this cargo vessel known as the Fitberg has now been seized by Finnish police. Finnish authorities say it was halted on suspicion of sabotaging an undersea telecoms cable running from Helsinki to Estonia across the Gulf of Finland.
At the moment, the boat is in the safe locations and the investigations are ongoing. As for the crimes suspected in this case, we are at the moment suspecting aggravated disruption of the telecommunication and also aggravated sabotage and attempted aggravated sabotage.
Estonian authorities, meanwhile, are weighing up whether they should launch a separate criminal case or move forward with joint prosecution with the Finns.
The cooperation between Estonia and Finland regarding various ships and infrastructure is quite smooth. We have already practiced this many times.
The Gulf of Finland has seen a string of similar incidents in recent years, and the 8 NATO states bordering the Baltic Sea have been on high alert after a series of outages of power cables and gas pipelines that run along the seabed.
Concern is growing in Europe at what officials view as a surge in hybrid threats, such as sabotage of key infrastructure from Russia since the start of the war in Ukraine. Moscow rejects the allegations.
A 18-year-old and a 20-year-old was brutally stabbed on New Year's Eve in Melbourne by 7 unidentified thugs. The state of the two teenagers are in critical condition, and the situation is under investigation.
A savage ambush minutes before midnight. A gang of thugs unleashed violence on Lygon Street. Brandishing knives and machetes, they attacked 2 men who stood no chance. One of the offenders uses 2 weapons to stab again and again as the other victim squirms on the ground, trying to dodge the onslaught.
Shame on you, boys. That's disgusting.
It was 11:45 when the 2 men were set upon as they walked down the street. The brutal attack lasting 15 seconds before the 18-year-old from New South Wales and his friend from Heidelberg West broke free. One slamming the door of a shisha bar just in time, the other getting help at a restaurant down the street.
People were screaming, he got stabbed, and then he came and sat in front of our store. My wife and her sisters and all that came out to assist the kid, and he was bleeding pretty bad.
The victims were stabbed in the chest and were taken to hospital in a critical condition as the heart of Carlton became a crime scene.
People are here to eat and have a good time, and we're about to bring in the new year. To see that in front of the store is really disappointing.
If you carry any edge weapon without any exemption whatsoever, you're going down 3 paths. You're either going to jail, you're going to hospital, or you're going to the cemetery. And it's as simple as that.
The Justice Department is scrambling to review roughly 5.2 million documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. According to reports, the number is much higher than known before.
The Justice Department is scrambling to review roughly 5.2 million documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, according to a source familiar with the operation. That's a number much higher than previously known. 2 sources familiar with the plan tell the DOJ is trying to enlist about 400 employees for the effort, which is expected to run until January 20th. That's a month after the deadline set by a bipartisan law Congress passed to release all Epstein files. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche posting today required redactions to protect victims take time, but they will not stop these materials from being released. The DOJ has already publicly released tens of thousands of documents. President Trump, who's never been accused of wrongdoing related to Epstein, has long said he cut off contact with his one-time friend in the early 2000s.
He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place. Persona non grata.
Now, the Wall Street Journal, citing former Mar-a-Lago and Epstein employees, is reporting on an incident it says led Trump to ban Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago spa. According to the Journal, in 2003, an 18-year-old beautician returned to the club from a house call to Epstein and reported to managers that he had pressured her for sex. When a manager sent a fax to Trump relaying the allegations, the Journal writes, Trump told the manager it was a good letter and said to kick him out. Police and former employees told the Journal the incident was not reported to Palm Beach police. Tonight, the White House calling the reporting fallacies and innuendo, adding no matter how many times this story is told and retold, the truth remains. President Trump did nothing wrong, and he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. Rex, the wallaby on the run, was missing for nearly a day before being returned to the Petting Zoo, an animal sanctuary in Williamstown, New Jersey, from which he escaped.
Clarissa Harper was picking up milk in Williamstown, New Jersey, when a 3-foot-tall animal hopped across her path.
And I'm leaving the parking lot, and I look over, like, something's hopping in front of my car. I couldn't contain my excitement for this, like, whatever. I was like, it's a kangaroo.
Rex, who's actually a wallaby, escaped the Lots of Love Animal Sanctuary and Petting Zoo Monday. Volunteers then scouring the area. Drones were even used in the search. Caitlin Evangelista and her mom were out looking for Rex when Caitlin spotted something behind a fence near the local Walmart.
I screamed stop, I think I see it. And then, I tried to get a closer look and I saw that, it was a wallaby. And I was just I couldn't believe it. There's no way we just found this thing that's been lost for hours.
Sanctuary owners rushing to the scene where it took a team effort to corral their escapee.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. It's a lot of prayers. It's really hard to catch a kangaroo. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's hard. So, you know what? It was a whole boatload of prayers. All the help is great, but he's a tricky little bugger.
The owners say from now on, they'll be double checking the locks on that enclosure.
The world celebrating in one accord as everyone steps into the new year, bidding farewell to 2025. Here's countries across the globe grandly welcoming 2026 as a family with shimmering lights and loud cheers.
London brings in 2026. The night sky sparkling above the River Thames. Celebrations started hours earlier. New Zealand among the first to get celebrations going. Then across Australia and spanning Asia, 2026 welcomed through the Middle East with a spectacular display from the Burj Khalifa. A new year, but still a long-running war. In Athens, the ancient Parthenon was a backdrop for New Year's festivities, and in Paris, the skies lit up above the Champs-Élysées.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Pritika Sivakumar, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of UAE and Australia ringing in New Year with spectacular fireworks. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Adi Derana News Channel. We wish you a very happy New Year. Good night.